Anxiety.
Anxiety.
What is my experience like with anxiety? I wish it was easy for me to sum it up to you so that you can hear how I feel, what I experience, and say, hey, that's exactly how I feel anxiety too. The problem is, anxiety never presents itself the same from person to person.
Anxiety to me was kind of a crippling sensation, to say the least, really. Since about the age of 13, I started experiencing the symptoms, which were a lot of social awkwardness, just shyness in general, anger towards situations that really didn't need it, and also a lot of nervousness just towards meeting new people, going out, or really just exploring.
I have this strange sensation where it's as if all the blood has been pumped out of my veins and being replaced with air. It's like I feel super heavy and super light all at the same time.
Anxiety was also it was an overwhelming feeling of nervousness, really. That was the main thing, as well as just self doubt. Sorry, a lot of double second questioning myself and my decisions, even though I knew they were what I wanted.
The anxiety usually starts in my stomach. Um, my stomach gets very upset. I can get butterflies. Mostly I just feel like I want to run away and I want to hide somewhere safe, even though I don't know where that place is.
Basically, a fear to move forward or a fear to go into the unknown, really.
The craziest thing about anxiety is I can't tell when it's coming on. Um, I can be having a completely normal day and out of the blue it hits me and there's no real reason for it.
Also, a lot of me thinking personally that people were thinking about me in a negative way, such as how I dressed or how I looked or spoke or just carried myself in general.
I am lucky enough to only have ever had one panic attack. And I can honestly say that was the most terrifying moment of my life. And by moment, I mean hours and what felt like days of a mental health hangover.
It was me working in a very negative way, I guess you could say, mentally, and it was starting to wreck on me physically. And that's actually when I spoke up a little bit about it to my parents and learned how to cope with it from then on.
I found the most important thing to do is have a self-care plan in place. And the thing about self-care is it's something you can work at your whole life. It's something that's ever changing. It's not something you can read in a book and try it a couple times and you feel instantly better. It's something you have to work on every day. Just like anxiety. It's not necessarily going to go away, and I acknowledge that, but I know there's steps I can take to lessen the blow.
Exercising helps a lot. That's what I also did. Just doing a run around a track once I woke up, just to kind of get that morning anxiety off me before I started my day. And then also just practice it, looking at your diet, seeing what isn't so great.
I'm a big fan of aromatherapy and diffusing essential oils. It works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone. I know the importance of eating healthy and getting outside back into nature I find to be very grounding.
Do different breathing practices to calm yourself. And then I also learned that meditation is a very helpful tool in just calming your own mind. Doing cognitive behavior therapy was very beneficial as well. They just basically train you to rewire your own brain into thinking more positive.
I also have learned how to reframe things. It can be very difficult when you're experiencing anxiety to be able to see outside of that. You're trapped in this bubble where you think the worst thing in the world is about to happen and you don't know how to escape it. So what I've learned to do is separate myself from that anxiety. I know that my anxiety is not trying to harm me. It's actually something that's in place to protect me from danger. The only problem is there is no danger. It's just perceived danger.
There was a lot of methods that I used, just encouraged by my doctors, including medication, which I understand isn't for everyone. It wasn't for me personally. It was just a means to get through at the time when it was the most difficult for myself. However, that relaxed me enough and taught me that anxiety is literally all in my head. The only way to defeat the anxiety, or at least learn how to deal with it, was to face it.
So instead of fighting with my anxiety and really getting upset with myself for feeling that way, the best thing I find to do is just take a moment, stop, see what my anxiety is trying to tell me, and then embrace it. If I'm in a situation where I feel especially anxious and I know it's not necessary, I just give myself a gentle reminder and say, this is how your anxiety feels. This is not necessarily what's actually happening in the real world.
Anxiety was a rough patch in my life. It'll always be with me, as it is a mental illness, of course. But it's the fact that I learned how to get over it and how to deal with my anxiety that was probably the most beneficial thing to my life.
Like I said before, it's a constant learning process.
If you are experiencing anxiety, or you just feel like you're overwhelmed and you think you're having anxiety, just talk. I found that to be the best way for myself, and I hope that your trip through anxiety goes just as well as mine did. Once you learn your coping mechanisms, everything will be alright.